The Galactic Council chamber was filled with murmurs and quiet discussions. Representatives of countless species sat in their assigned seats, their eyes focused on the center of the massive circular hall. The air was heavy with tension. Something was wrong. Something that had been ignored for far too long. Grand Chancellor Valerian, an elder of the auxiliary race, stood from his high seat. His silver robes shimmered under the artificial lights as he raised a three-fingered hand, demanding silence. The whispers died instantly. "We are here to discuss a matter that has remained unresolved for centuries," he began, his voice carrying the weight of authority. "A matter concerning the planet called Earth." A low hum of curiosity spread across the room. Earth, a small planet on the far edge of the galactic territories. It had never been an official member of the Council, and yet its presence, or rather, its absence, had been a mystery for generations. A counselor from the Varish Dominion, a reptilian species with gleaming red scales, leaned forward. "What is there to discuss, Chancellor? Humans have refused to join the Council for centuries. Their seat remains empty by choice. By choice, or by something else," countered a pale, four-eyed counselor from the Mentari Alliance. "We assume that humans are weak, unimportant. But if that is true, why does no one have full knowledge of their military strength? Why have no attempts to pressure them into joining been successful? And most importantly, why does every fleet that tries to force their hand simply disappear?" The room fell silent. It was an unspoken truth. The Council had tried to force Earth into submission before. Fleets had been sent. Fleets had never returned. Reports of navigational malfunctions, ghost signals, and entire battle groups vanishing into the void had made the Council hesitant. A tall, insectoid being with glistening black armor clicked its mandibles. "Perhaps they have allies we are unaware of. A hidden empire protecting them from the shadows." "Unlikely," Valerian replied. "No trade logs, no alliances, no major conflicts. Earth remains an isolated anomaly." A holographic projection appeared in the middle of the chamber, displaying a glowing image of Earth. It looked peaceful, insignificant, but every counselor present could feel it. Something was off. "Then we must settle this," declared the Varish counselor. "We cannot allow an independent planet to continue ignoring the Council. Either they join us, or we take control of them." A murmur of agreement rippled through the hall. Many saw Earth as a stubborn child refusing to obey its elders. The Council ruled the galaxy. No civilization had ever been allowed to stand alone. Valerian narrowed his glowing yellow eyes. "Then we must act carefully. If humans are truly insignificant, we will confirm it. If not, we will learn the truth." A vote was cast. The decision was made. A fleet would be sent to Earth, not to negotiate, not to ask, but to demand submission. But as the counselors congratulated themselves on their decision, none of them realized the truth. They were about to make the biggest mistake in the history of the galaxy. The fleet moved through the darkness of space, a silent storm approaching its target. Warships from multiple galactic factions formed an intimidating formation, their hulls gleaming under distant stars. They were armed with the most advanced weapons in the known universe. No planet had ever resisted such a force. Admiral Kalos of the Varish Dominion stood on the bridge of the flagship Obsidian Fang, his crimson scales glowing under the dim command lights. He had led countless planetary occupations. This mission would be no different. "Status report," he ordered. A pale-skinned officer, a member of the Tekari species, checked the scanners. "Admiral, we are approaching the Sol system. Long-range scans show no planetary defenses, no battle stations, no fleets." Kalos narrowed his slitted eyes. "Are you telling me that Earth is completely unprotected?" "It appears so." A low hiss escaped the Admiral's throat. He had expected resistance, shields, warships, hidden fortresses, something. But this, it was almost insulting. "Send a message to the Council," he said. "Tell them the humans have nothing to defend themselves with." His crew chuckled. already imagining the ease of their victory. But then, the scanners flickered. "Sir," the Tekeri officer frowned, adjusting the instruments. "We are detecting something unusual." Kalos folded his arms. "Clarify." The officer hesitated. "Multiple structures across Earth's surface are emitting low-frequency energy pulses. The patterns do not match known technology." The bridge fell silent. Kalos exhaled sharply. Could be industrial waste or primitive satellite signals. Humans rely on outdated communication systems. "Perhaps," the officer admitted. "But there's something else. Something strange." The main display zoomed in on Earth. Cities glowed like stars on the surface. But there were gaps. Large, empty zones where no transmissions, no heat signatures, nothing could be detected. "Anomalies?" Kalos asked, his voice suddenly sharp. "Yes, sir. These dead zones, they don't make sense. It's as if those areas don't exist." Kalos' claws tapped against the metal armrest of his command chair. A deep unease crept into his mind. No civilization functioned like this. Every advanced species had some traceable infrastructure. "What happens if we scan deeper?" he asked. The officer gulped. "Sir, the scanners don't go deeper. The moment we try, the data just disappears." Kalos' jaw tightened. Something was wrong. The Council had dismissed Earth as an unimportant, weak planet. But if that were true, then why did their most advanced scanners fail to map it? "Prepare a landing squad," he ordered. "We're going down there. I want to see this planet with my own eyes." As his crew rushed to comply, Kalos felt something he had not felt in decades. The fleet hung in orbit above Earth like a silent predator. Thousands of soldiers prepared for deployment, confident in their overwhelming superiority. Humanity had ignored the Galactic Council for centuries. But now, that arrogance would be punished. Admiral Kalos watched from the bridge of the Obsidian Fang as the first wave of landing ships descended through Earth's atmosphere. He had personally selected elite warriors from various species, ruthless, efficient, and experienced in planetary takeovers. Their mission was simple: establish control, force humanity's surrender, and eliminate any resistance. The descent was smooth. The ships glided effortlessly through the planet's gravity, their systems scanning for threats. They found none. The 1st Battalion touched down near one of Earth's major cities. The skyline was vast, the architecture advanced. But there were no defenses, no planetary shields, no automated turrets, nothing that a spacefaring civilization should have. Commander Zelf, a towering reptilian officer, stepped onto the solid ground with a smirk. "This will be easier than we thought," he growled, signaling his troops forward. The soldiers marched into the city streets, weapons ready. Yet, as they moved deeper, a strange silence surrounded them. There were no civilians running in fear, no security forces responding to their presence. The entire city stood still. Zelf activated his communicator. "This is Commander Zelf. We have landed successfully. No sign of resistance." The response came immediately. "Understood," Kalos said. "Proceed with occupation." Zelf motioned for his squad to advance. But then, something shifted. The streetlights flickered. The buildings, though modern, felt too clean, too perfect, as if they had been placed there, rather than built over time. A soldier pointed to a large screen mounted on one of the buildings. "Sir, look at that." The screen, which had been dark moments ago, suddenly turned on. A human face appeared. It was an old man, his eyes sharp, his expression calm. He wore no military uniform, no sign of rank, just a simple suit. But when he spoke, his voice carried authority. "You should not have come here." Zelf frowned. "Who are you?" The man smiled faintly. "Just someone who warned the Council long ago. Earth is not a member of your so-called galactic order for a reason." Zelf snorted. "Because you're weak?" The smile didn't fade. "Because we chose to stay hidden." The moment he spoke those words, the city changed. The buildings, the streets, even the sky itself glitched. For a fraction of a second, the soldiers saw something else, something beneath the illusion. A massive, incomprehensible structure, ancient and impossible. Then, just as quickly, it was gone. Zelf staggered back. What was that? The man's face remained on the screen, unbothered. Leave now. You are trespassing where you do not belong. Zelf growled and raised his weapon. You think we're afraid of your tricks. We are the Galactic Council's enforcers. The ground vanished. One moment, they were standing in the middle of the city. The next, they were somewhere else. Zelf and his soldiers found themselves in a dark void. No sky, no buildings, just an endless, silent abyss. And in the distance, something massive began to stir. Back on the Obsidian Fang, alarms blared. Admiral, the Tekeri officer shouted. The landing squads, they've disappeared. Kalos's blood ran cold. What do you mean, disappeared? Sensors must have lost them. No, sir. They're gone. One moment they were there. And then, the officer turned to face him, fear in his pale eyes. Something took them. And for the first time in his career, Admiral Kalos realized the truth. Earth was never defenseless. It was never weak. It was something else entirely. The bridge of the Obsidian Fang was silent. Every officer, every crew member, every hardened warrior stood frozen, staring at the data screens. The landing teams, elite forces trained to crush entire civilizations, had simply vanished. Admiral Kalos gritted his teeth, his claws digging into the armrests of his chair. Scan the surface again, he ordered. I want every satellite, every probe focused on that city. The Tekeri officer hesitated before responding. Sir, the city is gone. Kalos's slitted eyes narrowed. Gone. The officer swallowed hard. Yes, Admiral, it's no longer there. Our sensors show a completely barren landscape where it once stood. It's as if it never existed. Kalos shot up from his chair. Impossible. He stormed toward the main display, his tail lashing behind him in frustration. The screen showed Earth, its surface calm and unassuming. But he knew better now. This planet was hiding something beyond our understanding. Send another scouting party, he commanded. Small team, unmanned drones first. The crew obeyed, launching advanced reconnaissance drones toward the last known location of the missing soldiers. The drones descended into the atmosphere, their cameras streaming live footage back to the ship. For a moment, everything seemed normal. The land below was eerily quiet. No movement, no structures, just empty terrain. Then the feed flickered, the image distorted, twisting and warping. Strange shadows moved across the landscape, shapes that had no form, no recognizable features, yet seemed to exist just beyond the edge of perception. One by one, the drone's signals cut out. Kalos's hands clenched into fists. What is this madness? Then, the main screen changed. A new image appeared, a live transmission from Earth. The same human man who had warned them before was now staring directly at Kalos. His expression was calm, but his eyes held something ancient, something terrifying. You are still here, the man said. I warned you once. This is your final chance. Leave. Kalos snarled. Who are you? What have you done to my soldiers? The man didn't answer immediately. Instead, he sighed, almost as if he pitied them. You think this is a simple planet, he finally said. You think humans are just another species to conquer. His gaze sharpened. You have no idea what you've walked into. Kalos bared his fangs. You expect me to retreat because of a few parlor tricks. The man's expression darkened. Tricks. The screen shook. The lights on the bridge dimmed for a brief second. Every screen, every sensor, every piece of advanced technology aboard the Obsidian Fang flickered, as if something had momentarily reached into the ship itself. Kalos' officers gasped in alarm. Systems that had been stable for years suddenly failed. And then, just as suddenly, the ship stabilized. Kalos's breathing was heavy. His instincts screamed at him to retreat, to flee, but his pride, his years of command, wouldn't allow it. "Prepare the fleet for an orbital strike," he growled. His officers hesitated. "Sir," the Tekari officer whispered, "I don't think we should." "Do it," Kalos snapped. The fleet repositioned. Thousands of warships locked their weapons onto Earth. The order was simple: bombard the surface until nothing remained. Kalos raised his hand to give the final command. But then, Earth disappeared. 1 second, the planet was there. The next, it was gone. Gasps and shouts filled the bridge. Every sensor, every visual feed, every piece of tracking equipment showed the same thing. Earth had simply vanished from existence. Kalos's heart pounded. Find it. Scan every frequency. Every. The main screen activated again. The man was still there. But now, his background was different. No longer standing in a city, he was in a void. Behind him, Kalos saw something vast. Something beyond comprehension. It wasn't just Earth that had disappeared. It had moved. And it had taken them with it. Kalos turned sharply. Status report. The Tekari officer's hands shook as he checked the readings. "Sir, we are no longer in known space." The air grew thick with tension. Kalos turned back to the screen, his voice quieter now. "What are you?" The man tilted his head. "We are human." The transmission cut. And then, the true nightmare began. Admiral Kalos gripped the edges of his command chair, his claws digging deep into the polished surface. The weight of the moment pressed down on him like an unseen force. The planet was gone. His fleet, a force meant to bring terror to the weak, now drifted in unknown space, cut off from everything familiar. The bridge was eerily silent. Officers glanced at one another, their confidence replaced with a creeping dread. The Tekari officer at the sensor station struggled to form words. "Sir, I don't know where we are." Kalos growled, forcing himself to remain calm. "Run a full scan. Find the closest star system." The officer's hands trembled as he worked, but the results only made the fear spread. "Sir, there are no recognizable star formations, no signals, no navigational markers. We aren't just in unknown space. We are outside of the galaxy itself." Kalos's breath hitched. Impossible. Even with their most advanced warp drives, such a journey should have taken thousands of years. Yet here they were, cast adrift in a void where no fleet had ever ventured. The main screen flickered again. That human appeared once more, calm and unmoving. Behind him, the vast emptiness stretched endlessly. But now, something else loomed in the darkness, something so massive, so alien, that Kalos's mind refused to fully comprehend it. "Now you understand," the human said. Kalos forced his voice to remain steady. "What have you done to us?" The man's expression didn't change. "We warned you." Kalos bared his fangs. "If you think this trick will break me, you're mistaken. I will burn your world to the ground." The man sighed. "You still believe this is a battle you can win? How? Predictable." Kalos slammed his fist onto the control panel. "Enough riddles. Explain where we are." The human nodded slightly. "Very well." The screen zoomed out, showing the full extent of their situation. At first, Kalos didn't understand what he was looking at. Then his blood ran cold. The fleet wasn't just in deep space. They were outside the universe. There was no light, no warmth, no stars, no planets, just an infinite void. One of his officers whispered in horror, This isn't possible." The human continued speaking, his voice calm but edged with something far older than his appearance suggested. "You see, Admiral, Earth was never what you thought it was. You assumed we were just another civilization. Primitive, arrogant, ignorant of the wider galaxy. The man leaned forward. But Earth is not a planet. Not in the way you understand. It is something else. Something older than your council, older than your empires. And it does not like being threatened. Kalos felt his chest tighten. He had made a mistake. A massive shadow passed behind the human. Something colossal, something that should not exist. It moved like a shifting storm, twisting reality itself. The human glanced back at it, as if listening to an unseen voice. Then he turned back to Kalos. "This is your final lesson, Admiral. You thought you were the hunters." His expression darkened. "But you were the prey all along." The transmission cut. And then something knocked on the hull of the ship. Kalos's heart stopped. It was impossible. They were in space. There was nothing out there. Yet the sound echoed again. A slow, deliberate knock. Something was out there. Something had been waiting. The shadows outside the ship began to move. And for the first time in his life, Admiral Kalos knew what true fear felt like. The darkness inside the obsidian fang was absolute. No emergency lights flickered to life. No backup power systems engaged. It was as if the ship itself had been swallowed by something greater. Kalos could hear his officers breathing. Fast, panicked, desperate. But no one spoke. No one dared to move. Because the knocking was gone. And in its place, something breathed. It was faint at first, almost imperceptible. A slow, rhythmic sound. Deep, inhuman. It came from everywhere and nowhere, filling the bridge like a presence, pressing into their minds like invisible fingers. Kalos' claws tightened into fists. "Report," he ordered, but his voice was barely above a whisper. No response. He turned to his communications officer. The Tekeri sat frozen, eyes wide, mouth slightly open, as if mid-sentence. "Lieutenant." Still nothing. Kalos stepped forward, reaching out, then stopped. The officer's chest was not rising, not breathing. And then, in the silence, a voice spoke. Not over the comms, not through any system. It was just there. Soft, whispering. "You were never meant to be here." Kalos spun around, searching for the source. But there was nothing, just the blackness pressing in from all sides. And then, the stars returned, but not as they should have. The view outside the ship was different, wrong. There were no familiar constellations, no recognizable markers. Instead, a new galaxy stretched before them, one filled with dead, blackened planets, with shattered worlds, crumbling space stations, ghostly remnants of civilizations long erased. This was not the galaxy they had come from. Kalos's breath quickened. "Navigation," he barked. "Confirm our coordinates." No response. He turned back toward the crew, only to find the bridge empty. His officers were gone. Every seat, every station, abandoned. And then he saw it. The main screen flickered once more, and the human appeared again. But this time, he stood in the bridge itself, right where his officers should have been. Kalos's throat tightened. He reached for his sidearm, but his holster was empty. The human stared at him, his expression unreadable. His voice was quiet, final. "You wanted to know Earth's secret." Kalos couldn't speak. The human tilted his head. "Now you do." Kalos swallowed. His voice came out hoarse. Where am I?" The human exhaled slowly. "Somewhere you cannot leave." Kalos stepped back, shaking his head. No, this is a trick. A lie." The human's eyes gleamed. "Do you think so?" And then, for the first time, Kalos felt it. Not just around him, but inside him. A slow, creeping sensation crawling through his mind. Memories began to fade. His homeworld, his fleet, his name. One by one, they disappeared. Kalos gasped, staggering back. "Stop, stop." The human took a step closer. "There is no stopping this." Kalos fell to his knees. Please. The last thing he saw was the human's eyes. The last thing he heard was his own name, spoken by something else. The empty throne. The Galactic Senate was the most powerful institution in the universe. It ruled over thousands of star systems, dictated the fate of entire civilizations, and passed laws that shaped the galaxy. Every species, from the ancient Thalaxar to the warlike Vorthons, had a seat in the Grand Chamber. But there was one seat that had never been filled. The chair at the center of the chamber, Earth's seat, stood empty, as it had for centuries. Kyrex, a young diplomat from the Vorthon Confederacy, sat at his assigned place, his forefingers tapping restlessly on the polished metal table. This was his first time attending the Senate, and though he had studied galactic politics for years, one mystery had always puzzled him. Why is Earth's seat empty? He finally asked, his voice carrying through the chamber. Silence fell over the Senate. For a moment, no one spoke. The question was simple, yet it sent a wave of unease through the gathered leaders. Kyrex noticed how some senators shifted uncomfortably, others glanced at one another, and a few even lowered their gaze as if afraid to speak. Chancellor Ovaltar, a reptilian giant from the Selvar Dominion, cleared his throat. His deep voice echoed across the chamber. Earth has chosen not to participate, he said carefully. They refuse to attend. They refuse to vote. They refuse to rule. Kyrex frowned. But why? Another silence. Then, an elder of the Thalaxar, his skin pale and wrinkled, let out a slow breath. Because they do not need to, the elder murmured. His blind, white eyes stared into nothingness. And that is what terrifies us. A chill ran down Kyrex's spine. He looked around the chamber, expecting someone to argue, to dismiss the elder's words as nonsense. But no one did. The silence stretched on, heavier than before. They are just another species, Kyrex insisted, trying to mask his unease. The same as us. No, the elder shook his head. Not the same. Chancellor Ovaltar turned to glare at the Thalaxar elder. Enough of this, he growled. Earth is irrelevant. We do not speak of them because there is nothing to speak of. But Kyrex wasn't satisfied. He could see it now, the fear in their eyes, the tension in their voices. They were afraid of Earth, but why? His mentor, Senator Varn, who sat beside him, leaned in. His voice was barely above a whisper. Drop this, Kyrex. Some questions are better left unanswered. Kyrex hesitated, but before he could ask more, a sudden beeping sound filled the chamber. The main display flickered to life. Emergency transmission, an officer announced. Outer Rim sector. Unidentified distress signal. The senators turned to watch as the screen displayed a grainy video feed. The image shook violently. The sound filled with static. A figure, blurry, barely visible, appeared on the screen. A voice crackled through the noise. We found it. We found the truth. The Senate must know. The transmission cut off. The chamber was silent. The officer, his face pale, turned back to the Senate. The transmission. It came from an abandoned human research station. A shiver ran down Kyrex's spine. The humans had left that station centuries ago. Or at least, that's what everyone believed. Kyrex couldn't sleep that night. The transmission from the abandoned human station played over and over in his mind, the fear in the speaker's voice. The way the signal cut out so suddenly. And worst of all, the eerie silence that followed in the Senate chamber. They were hiding something. But what? Kyrex needed answers, and he knew exactly where to find them. Deep within the Senate complex, hidden from public access, was the restricted archives, a vault of classified records that contained everything the Senate did not want the galaxy to know. Kyrex walked through the dark halls, his footsteps barely making a sound. His heart pounded as he reached a large security door. The entry denied message flashed on the screen. He took a deep breath and pulled out a small hacking device. Vorthons weren't just warriors. They were engineers, innovators, problem solvers. Within seconds, the lock clicked open. Kyrex slipped inside. Rows of glowing data terminals stretched before him, filled with centuries of hidden knowledge. He quickly searched for Earth. The system hesitated, as if reluctant to give him what he wanted. Then dozens of restricted files appeared before his eyes. His breath caught. There were thousands of records on Earth. Most had been marked as sealed by High Command. Others were simply deleted, erased as if they had never existed. But one file stood out. It was old, nearly 1,000 years old. The title sent a shiver down his spine. Final Senate Report on Earth's Withdrawal. Kyrex opened it. The screen flickered, and a video log began to play. A human figure appeared, tall, dressed in ancient military uniform. His expression was unreadable, his voice calm but heavy with finality. "This is Admiral Daniel Graves of the Terran Defense Fleet," the man said. "Earth will no longer participate in the Senate. We are withdrawing from all intergalactic affairs, effective immediately." Kyrex leaned closer. This was the moment humanity left the galaxy. But why? "We have seen what lies beyond," the Admiral continued. "We have learned the truth about this universe, about the enemies that watch from the dark." Kyrex's fingers clenched the console. "Enemies. The Senate is blind," the Admiral said. "You think you are in control. You think your fleets and your laws keep you safe." He paused, his gaze turning cold. "You are wrong." Kyrex's heartbeat quickened. "We are leaving," the Admiral continued. "Not out of fear, but because we must prepare. When the day comes, when the void stirs once more, we will be ready." The screen glitched. The last word sent a chill through Kyrex's bones. "Pray that we never return." Then the file deleted itself. Kyrex staggered back. His mind raced. What had the humans seen? What were they preparing for? And why was the Senate so afraid of their return? Suddenly, the door behind him slid open. "Step away from the console." Kyrex turned slowly. Chancellor Ovaltar stood in the doorway, flanked by armed guards. His reptilian eyes gleamed with fury. "You shouldn't have seen that," the Chancellor growled. Kyrex swallowed hard. He had just uncovered the Senate's greatest secret. And now, they couldn't let him leave alive. Kyrex's mind raced as the guards closed in. His heart pounded in his chest. Think. "You don't understand," he said, raising his hands. "Earth knew something dangerous." Chancellor Ovaltar's expression remained cold. "And that is exactly why you should have stayed ignorant." The guards moved to seize him. Kyrex acted on instinct. He grabbed the nearest data console and smashed his hacking device into the port. The lights flickered. Alarms blared. The entire system began to shut down. The guards hesitated, just long enough. Kyrex ran. Through the darkened halls, past startled officers, dodging security drones. He knew they wouldn't let him escape the Senate complex. There was only one way out, off-world. His ship was waiting in the docking bay. If he could reach it. Blaster fire erupted behind him. He dodged left, sprinting faster. The docking doors came into view, but just before he could reach them, a stun blast struck him in the back. His vision blurred, his body collapsed. The last thing he saw before the darkness took him was the Chancellor's cold smile. Kyrex woke up to the hum of an engine. His body ached. His hands were bound. He was on a ship. A familiar voice spoke. "You're lucky I convinced the Chancellor not to kill you." Kyrex turned his head. Senator Varn stood nearby, his expression grim. Kyrex groaned. "Where are we?" Varn glanced at the control panel. "We're taking you far from the Senate, somewhere you can't cause trouble." Kyrex clenched his jaw. "Varn, listen to me. The Senate is hiding something huge. The humans didn't just leave. They were preparing for something. You saw the transmission. The abandoned research station. I saw it, Varn interrupted. And that's exactly why I'm doing this. Kyrex frowned. Varn sighed, leaning closer. His voice dropped to a whisper. You're right, Kyrex. The Senate fears Earth. But they fear something else even more. Kyrex's eyes widened. What? Varn hesitated. Then he pressed a few buttons on the console. A holographic star map appeared. It showed the outer rim, and a blinking red signal. The distress call, Kyrex murmured. Varn nodded. The Chancellor wants this signal erased. He's sending a fleet to destroy the station, so that no one finds out what's there. Kyrex stared at the blinking light. His mind spun. We have to get there first, he said. Varn exhaled. Then, finally, he reached out and unlocked Kyrex's restraints. We leave now, Varn said. But if we find what I think we will, we may not come back. With that, the ship changed course. Toward the lost human station. Toward the truth. The small ship hurtled through hyperspace, leaving the galactic Senate far behind. Kyrex sat in the cockpit beside Senator Varn, his mind racing. The distress signal from the abandoned human station pulsed on the display, a silent beacon calling them toward the unknown. Kyrex turned to Varn. What exactly do you think we'll find? Varn's face was unreadable. The last time anyone spoke of Earth's fleets, they were unmatched. Some say they left behind something dangerous. Others say they took something with them. Kyrex's stomach twisted. And you think the Senate knows? Varn let out a humorless chuckle. The Senate fears Earth more than any enemy we've ever faced. Do you know why they let the humans leave without a fight? Kyrex shook his head. Varn leaned forward. Because we didn't let them leave, Kyrex. They walked away on their own, and we were too afraid to stop them. The word sent a chill down Kyrex's spine. Before he could respond, the ship's alarms blared. Destination reached. They exited hyperspace, and the human station came into view. It was massive. An ancient construct floating in the cold void, its surface covered in dust and debris. Cracks lined the structure, yet it still held together, as if refusing to die. Varn checked the sensors. No life signs, but the distress beacon is still active. Kyrex swallowed hard. Something's waiting for us. They maneuvered the ship into a docking bay, the landing thrusters kicking up a cloud of dust. The station was eerily silent. The metal hallways were dimly lit by flickering emergency lights. As they stepped inside, the air was thick, not with dust, but with something else. A feeling, a presence. Kyrex gripped his blaster. I don't like this. Varn scanned the walls. This place was abandoned for centuries. But look at the power levels. There's still energy running through this station. Kyrex frowned. Then who turned on the distress beacon? A faint sound echoed through the corridor. A metallic click. Both men froze. Kyrex aimed his weapon into the darkness. We're not alone. Varn pointed toward a control panel. Let's check the logs. If there are any records left, we need to see them. They moved quickly, reaching the station's command center. Dust-covered consoles hummed softly, their screens still active after centuries of silence. Kyrex activated the last recorded log. The screen flickered, and a grainy image appeared. A human scientist, fear in his eyes. This is Dr. Ilias Carter. We were wrong. So wrong. Static crackled through the speakers. They told us not to look. They warned us never to activate the last archive. But we did. And now, a deep rumble shook the station. The video glitched. They're coming back. Dr. Carter's voice trembled. We thought they left us behind. We thought we were safe. But we were fools. Kyrex and Varn exchanged a look. The recording continued. They never left. They've been watching. Waiting. And now, the scientist's face twisted in terror. Humanity is coming home. The screen shut off. A heavy silence fell over the room. Then, somewhere deep in the station, a low, mechanical voice activated. Final protocol initiated. Standby for arrival. Kyrex's blood ran cold. Something was waking up. A deep rumble shook the station. Dust rained from the ceiling. The floor vibrated beneath their feet. Kyrex spun around, gripping his blaster tight. What the hell was that? He demanded. Varn's eyes were locked on the screen. The final words of Dr. Carter's law echoed in his mind. Humanity is coming home. Varn swallowed hard. I think something just woke up. Another tremor. The walls groaned as old machinery roared back to life. Then the station spoke. Final protocol engage. Automated systems online. The lights brightened. Monitors blinked to life, displaying lines of code in an ancient human dialect. Red warning symbols flashed across every screen. Kyrex stepped back. This station was never abandoned, was it? Varn's fingers flew across the console, deciphering the data. His breath hitched. Oh no. Kyrex's stomach twisted. What? Varn turned to him, face pale. This isn't just a station. It's a command center. A new alert flashed on the screen. Reactivating fleet. Standby. Kyrex felt his blood turn to ice. Reactivating what? The station trembled again. This time, it wasn't coming from inside. Something outside was moving. Kyrex and Varn sprinted to a nearby viewport. At first, they saw only the void, the distant stars, the shattered remains of long-dead ships drifting in the silence. Then, light. One by one, dark silhouettes emerged from the shadows. Gigantic shapes, hidden beneath the debris field. Their hulls gleamed as they powered up, ancient reactors roaring to life after millennia of slumber. A fleet. Not just any fleet. The lost Terran Defense Armada. Kyrex felt his breath catch. The ships were unlike anything he had ever seen. Towering dreadnoughts, sleek warships, titanic carriers bristling with weapons. Their designs were old, but far more advanced than anything the Galactic Senate had ever built, and they were waking up. One by one, their engines ignited. One by one, their weapons came online. Varn grabbed Kyrex's arm. His voice was barely above a whisper. The Senate always wondered why Earth never came back. Kyrex couldn't take his eyes off the fleet. They never left, he murmured. Then, a final message blinked on the screen. A single, chilling sentence. The Terran Armada is online, awaiting orders. Kyrex's pulse thundered in his ears. Something told him they wouldn't have to wait long. The station's metal walls shuddered as the massive warships came fully online. Energy signatures spiked across the sector. The silence of deep space was shattered by the awakening of humanity's lost fleet. Kyrex and Varn stood frozen, staring through the viewport as the enormous ships moved like sleeping giants, shaking off the dust of time. Engines ignited, weapons systems hummed to life, and defense protocols activated. Kyrex exhaled sharply. This fleet could wipe out the entire Galactic Senate in hours. Varn's fingers trembled over the console as he accessed more data. His eyes widened. This isn't just a fleet. It's a war machine, an entire planetary invasion force. But why would humanity leave all of this behind? Kyrex frowned. Maybe they never meant to leave it. A sudden alert blared through the station. Incoming transmission detected. Source: unknown. The screens flickered. A new voice, cold and mechanical, filled the room. Unauthorized access detected. Identify. Varn hesitated before speaking. I am Senator Varn of the Galactic Senate. We mean no harm. We. The voice interrupted. Identity not recognized. Scanning. A red laser flickered over them, scanning their bodies. The station's AI processed the results. Then, silence. The screen shifted, revealing something neither of them expected. A human. His face was obscured by a helmet, his uniform dark and imposing. He sat in a command chair, surrounded by flickering holoscreens. His eyes locked onto them, with an intensity that sent chills down Kyrex's spine. Then he spoke. "You are not authorized to be here." Kyrex swallowed. Who are you?" The figure leaned forward slightly. "I am Admiral Victor Hale of the Terran Defense Armada. And you have trespassed on a classified military installation." Farn's breath caught. "This station is active." Admiral Hale nodded slowly. "It was never deactivated." Kyrex's mind reeled. But the Senate always thought Earth abandoned the war, that they left the galactic stage centuries ago. Hale's expression darkened. "That's what we wanted them to believe." The word sent a chill down Kyrex's spine. Farn took a hesitant step forward. But why? Why hide a fleet this powerful? Why leave the Senate? Hale's eyes burned with something unreadable. "You don't understand," he said quietly. "The Senate was never humanity's ally. We left because we saw what was coming." Kyrex's hands tightened into fists. What was coming? Hale didn't answer immediately. Instead, he pressed a control on his console. A massive holographic display filled the room. Kyrex and Varn gasped. A vast armada, larger than anything in recorded history, was moving toward Senate-controlled space. Unknown ships. Dark, menacing, unlike any design in the galactic records. A hostile force. Hale's voice was grim. "They are already on their way." He turned to them, eyes cold as steel. "And the Senate is not ready." A heavy silence filled the room. Kyrex and Varn stared at the holographic display, their minds struggling to process what they were seeing. A massive armada, tens of thousands of warships, was approaching Senate-controlled space. Their black hulls gleamed like obsidian, their formations precise and deadly. Kyrex's throat was dry. Who are they?" Admiral Hale's face remained expressionless. "We call them the Harbingers. They are the reason we left the Galactic Senate, the reason humanity vanished." Varn shook his head. "This doesn't make sense. The Senate never detected an invasion force. There was no war, no battle. If these Harbingers existed, why did humanity leave instead of warning us?" Hale leaned forward. "Because we saw the truth. The Senate wasn't ready. You were too focused on politics, too blind to see the storm coming. If we had stayed, we would have been dragged into your weakness, and we would have died alongside you." The words cut deep. Varn felt the weight of them settle over him like a crushing force. Kyrex narrowed his eyes. "So you just left, hid your fleets and abandoned the galaxy?" Hale's gaze hardened. "No." He pointed at the hologram. "We spent centuries preparing, watching, studying their tactics. We built the greatest war machine in history, ready to strike the moment they arrived." Farn's heart pounded. "Then why reveal yourselves now?" Hale exhaled slowly. "Because time is up. The Harbingers are here. And this war, it won't be like anything the galaxy has ever seen." A deep boom echoed through the station. The viewport flickered as the Terran Armada shifted into full combat readiness. Engines roared. Weapon systems primed. Shields powered up. The ancient fleet was no longer sleeping. It was hungry. A message flashed across the command console. "Harbinger forces detected. Engagement imminent." Hale turned to them, his voice like steel. "The Senate won't survive this without us. And I need to know." His piercing gaze locked onto Farn. "Are you here to help? Or will you get in our way?" Farn's mind raced. The Senate would never believe him. They had dismissed Earth as nothing more than a forgotten power. But now humanity stood between them and extinction. Kyrex clenched his fists. "What do you need us to do?" Hale gave a grim smile. "Tell the Senate the truth." Another boom. The void outside rippled as dark shapes emerged from hyperspace. Sleek, jagged ships with glowing red cores. The Harbingers had arrived. Hale turned back to his console. "We've waited long enough. Time to remind the galaxy why humanity was feared." With a single command, the Terran Armada surged forward. The war had begun.